Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody is having a healthy and productive week so far. In this class, students, we are looking at the reading section for the academic. This reading could be your Section 3 for General IELTS easily as well. So it works for both the academic and general students. Now, these materials, this passage is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS help. Check us out there. And for general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of these websites, we have loads and loads of great materials for you. This is our academic website here with the blue background. Click that big red button to join. Get access to our premium package, which includes an interactive course, over 100 hours of HD video lessons with strategies, and original practice exams, all accessible on your phone, tablet, computer. As well, for the general IELTS, same idea, green background, gieltshelp.com. Click that big red button to join us there. Students, if you have questions about any of our products, just send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Also, remember to get our apps. Search your app store for Academic IELTS Help. Look for our shield. When you install the app, link the app to aehelp.com under More. Same idea for General IELTS. Search for the General IELTS Help app. Today, we're doing a bit of reading, and then tomorrow, we will do a task 1 chart with everyone for the academic IELTS, so make sure to join us for that. You can always check our schedule on our YouTube community board. All right, students, let's get into today's reading passage. This is coming out of our 4th exam, dealing with the London Underground. And of course, we have audio tracks with British readers for all of our products as well. So here we go, students. Let's do this together. When you get to your reading passage, the first thing you should always do is read the topic, the London Underground. Okay? All right. When you read the topic, you should think about what, why, how. So what is the London Underground? What is it? Beck John, send me an email on that question, okay? So what is the London Underground? Look at the picture, think about it, okay? Always think critically when you read the title. So that's my first tip here, students, is in the reading section, read the title. So step 1, read the title. And stop for a minute to think critically. Meaning, ask yourself what, why, and how. So, for example, what is the London Underground? Okay. And Sudi says it's a tube. Okay, it's a metro station. But what is it? Priya says it's a train. Okay, it's the subway of London. It's a transportation system to move from one place to another. Okay. All right, if somebody asked me, so if one of you said, hey, Adrian, what is the London Underground? What I would tell you is that it is the train system of transportation that moves in tubes underneath the city of London. That would be my answer. Students, remember, be visual, right? So sure, you're saying it's a metro, but what is a metro, right? It's not the same as a regular train. There's a big difference. It's under the earth, right? Hence it's called the underground. So it's a train that moves underneath the earth under the city of London. That is the London Underground. Why? So the question here is, why does such a system exist? So why does such a transportation system exist? What's your answer? So asking the right questions and answering them in your mind quickly before you begin reading can really help to improve your band scores. Okay, good, Hadiyar says that there's no traffic, it's high speed to save space and time. Very good, Alex. Yeah. So to move quickly, without traffic, under the earth, saving both time and money and space. Very good. Dr. Krishna says there's even less pollution, reducing traffic. It's economical, it's safer. Economic, less pollution, sure. Okay. Very good. Very, very good. So how does it work? How does such a system work? That's my next question here. Okay, asking the right questions is very important to learn to do well. So Hemant says it uses electricity, which means it doesn't pollute as much, yeah? So give me a description of how a metro works by using electricity to power a train which sits on rails, passengers get off and on at different stations under London, right? Shali says it's a magnetic energy system. Very good. Very nice. Yeah, awesome. Good job, students. So, let's ask another question. So, who? Okay, if you're a quick thinker, you can even go beyond the what, why, how, and go on to the who. So, who uses such a transportation system? Okay, the reason we're doing this is when we go through these questions in our mind quickly, before we read the passage, we prep or we prime our thinking so that we can understand what we read much faster. Our brain can infer the meaning of new words or the meanings of new words that we haven't seen before. Okay. So Jack Patel says city dwellers or locals. Kyber says individuals. Alex says the public. Kyber says tourists, ordinary people. Kyber also says businessmen. Yeah. So the public, answer with detail, students. The public, workers, tourists, students, right? It's kind of sums up the gist of it. So the public, the workers, the tourists, the students, that's who it serves, right? Specifically. Good. Nicely done, students. So that's what you want to do when you read the title. Take a minute, think of what, why, how. When you feel good about that, go one step beyond and even ask other questions like who and so on. When do people use it? Okay. All right. Then step number 2 is take a peek at the questions and read questions that are included in the passage. Yes, no, not given. Should I read this question before I read the passage? Yes, no, not given. Should I read yes, no, not given questions before reading the passage? Stay in English, students. Respect that it's an English class and many of you are here to learn English, so stay in English. Sammy says no. Beckjon says no, no, no. Everybody says no. Lots of no's. No yeses. Good. I'm having an impact on the world of IELTS students. I'm really happy about that. Yeah, don't read these types of questions. So any of those people thinking yes, look at all the no's, okay? Beatrice says, for me, yes. All right. It's not a good idea because you're reading extra information that you don't need to read twice necessarily. Okay. So step 2 is read or review. You don't need to detail read these. So just read or review question information that is in the passage. Do not read information not in the passage, as this will confuse you after the passage. For example, it is very difficult for the average human mind to delineate information which it read in questions versus the passage. Okay? So delineate means to differentiate here, to separate, all right, the information, all right? Okay, so it is very difficult to do that, all right? So don't read information that's not in the passage. All right, so yes, no, not given, don't read it. There are false and not given statements. We don't know which ones they are. We're just going to skip them. We'll get to those later. It makes logical sense. Here we have a summary completion question. Summary completion questions, definitely a good idea. They give you an idea of the passage. In other words, paraphrasing. So these ones are not too bad. Let's read these. The first line, so read with me. The growth of the London Underground. The first line of the Underground was constructed in 1863, and over the next something decades, additional lines would increase the breadth of the system's reach. By the start of World War II, the central part of London was completely covered. Through the mid-20th century, the focus was on making the system available to those living in the something of the city. Before 1933, there were many governing bodies. These were something companies with their own contracts and land. Conversely, management of the tube today is public and looked after by the transport something. All right. Now, careful with trying to search for answers for these, because some of these summary completion questions, they have information from the whole passage. So then you're stuck searching the whole passage, and that can be really slow. So you have to be very careful with that. Okay? So skimming, scanning are not effective strategies for high band scores. Now here we have complete each sentence with the correct ending A to F below. So here we have half of the sentence, and then below we have 6 choices to complete these. Okay, and for passage 1, you have, for these kinds of questions, usually 4 questions, and then maybe 5 or 6 choices. Later in passage 2 or passage 3, you can have more choices. So you can have 8 or 9, which makes it even more confusing. So be really, really careful, okay, with that. You don't want to read the choices because, again, we don't know which ones are right, which ones are wrong, and that's confusing. So we only read the questions, not the answers, okay? So here we go. The tube map is. The map is useful because it allows a person. Beck's key insight was, London's core is. Now, when we read these, you want to think about what they're saying. So here we see that map and map are in there. So here there's going to be some information about the map of this London Underground. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind. Okay, students, so now that we've looked at the questions, our next step is to read the passage carefully in about 10 minutes. Okay, so step 3 is read the passage in 10 to 12 minutes actively. If you cannot do this, you should work hard reading at least 90 minutes of English each day to improve your reading fluency. Okay, so make sure to do that. There are no real tricks or shortcuts to get around that. If you can get a score above 6.5 with skim reading and scanning, you probably could get a better score if you actually read the passage, or you're basically a lottery winner and you're just being super lucky, which is not a good strategy for your exam, okay? So you're not just rolling the dice here. Plus, of course, for you academic students, if you cannot read one of these passages in 10 to 12 minutes, you will find the reading material and volume, the amount of reading material in your college and university, very challenging, if not impossible, okay? All right, so you have to have that reading fluency. Here we go, students. So London Underground, this is reading. Let's read together, okay? All right. So Hadiyar is asking, so up until now, how much time did we spend in the real test? In the real test, Hadiyar, up until now, you spent about maybe 4.5 minutes. Okay, Hadi, up until now, about 4.5 minutes. Okay, all right. So here we go, students. This is reading, so let's read together. Read nice and loud, and actively visualize, picture what's happening, and think about, what am I reading? All right? Roop, don't worry about difficult words, just skim over them. Okay? Here we go. One of the most notable aspects of London, the Underground, or Tube, is also one of the most utilized by locals and visitors alike. Over 1.3 billion passengers use the London Underground every year. If you have ever visited this city, it is very likely that you have been told to mind the gap. In continuous operation for over 150 years, the London Underground began as just one line run by a private corporation. Today, the system is publicly owned and is comprised of 11 separate lines. The growth and development of the Underground has mirrored London's development as first, an industrial powerhouse, and second, a financial and tourism center. Okay, what did I read about? The importance of the London Underground to London. Why is it important? Because it mirrors the growth of London as an economic and business center of the world. Okay, so The London Underground is one of the most notable parts of London that's been around for 150 years. So reading a general introduction and history of the London Underground. Let's keep going here, students. Let's keep going here. So Beckjan says there's 1.3 billion people who use it every year. Mabluck says the importance of it. Why is it so important? It moves 1.3 billion locals and tourists alike. Okay. All right, good. Let's keep reading here. So from here, Great Britain was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries. Cities like Glasgow, Birmingham, and London gave birth to inventions such as the steam engine, which revolutionized transportation and travel. People began to flock to these cities for jobs, opportunity, and prosperity. London was the destination of choice for many of these people. In 1800, at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the population of London was less than 1 million people. By the 1900s, that number would balloon to over 6.5 million people. There were many factors which contributed to this growth, not least of which was improved sanitation. But one factor in particular allowed for the mobility of those people across the ever-expanding city, the construction and development of the London Underground. What are we reading about here, students? So what is the main point of this paragraph? And this is active reading, where you think about these questions and answers for each paragraph. Okay, so think. What is the main point of this paragraph? For example, what is body paragraph 1 about? And the answer is, Hina says about development. Zaid says the background history of the London Underground. Roop Kaur says the Industrial Revolution of London. Yeah, so the development of England, specifically London, from the 18th to 19th centuries, and the importance of the tube in this process. Yeah, so it's the development of England, specifically London, from the 18th to 19th centuries, the Industrial Revolution, and the importance of the tube in this process. So the importance of the underground. Absolutely, that's what it's about. Okay, let's keep going. The first line, so again, read with me, and students, read aloud. Okay, aloud is very important. It means reading so you can hear yourself. It means so that you hear your own voice, you feel the movement of your tongue. That really makes language learning more efficient and information acquisition more efficient. Here we go. The first line was constructed in 1863. Over the next 50 years, many more lines would be added, resulting in the virtual blanketing of central London by the start of the First World War. Through the interwar period and mid-20th century, the focus for the subway developers was extending the network to the suburbs of London, where an increasing number of Londoners were now residing. Interestingly, it wasn't until 1933 that the developers of the network unified into a single governing body. Until that time, there were a host of private companies competing for contracts, land, and customers. Today, the London Underground is owned and operated by the London Transport Authority. Transport for London. All right, so what are we talking about here? What are we talking about in this paragraph? Clearly, we're talking about the history specifically of the London Underground. So the previous paragraph, the history of England and London, the importance of the Underground. Now the history of the tube itself, the first line, then its development. It was owned privately, and then it became a public company. Okay, so Musafir Hun says, the transport of London and its management. Musafir, to be more specific, the London subway or underground system management. Okay, as well as its ownership. That's right, Elena. Okay, here we go. Let's keep reading together, nice and loud. Perhaps the most recognizable symbol of the London Underground is the tube map, designed in 1931 by underground employee Harry Beck. With its many colorful lines and intricate details, the tube map is not only useful, but aesthetically pleasing as well. Indeed, a print copy of the tube map is a popular souvenir for tourists to put on their walls back home. That it is artful is, however, only part of its appeal. The tube map is incredibly useful. Just a moment spent looking at the map can help you determine how to get from any point in London to any other point. Beck was able to accomplish this by realizing that the map did not need to exactly match the reality of the tube geography. For instance, a line may go through all sorts of turns through its route, yet on the map, it is represented as a straight line. This simplification worried underground management in 1931, but soon enough, the tube map became a sensation, both for its usefulness and its elegant design. Well, what are we talking about here? Clearly, the London Underground map, its beauty and its utility, its usefulness. So its design and its beauty and its usefulness. Yeah, Beatrice, very good. So the advantages of the tube map. Very nice. And its use. That's right, Sammy. Okay, here we go. Let's continue on. Today, the tube is used more than ever, and London continues to grow. With the center of London becoming a financial hub over the past 50 years, more and more jobs have been created in the English capital. While this has in some sense hollowed out the core of London, it has also highlighted the need for more lines to service the ever-increasing number of London suburbs. Additionally, tourism to London has never been higher. Well over 30 million people visited the city in 2015, each of whom undoubtedly at some point used the venerable London Underground. So this is the conclusion. Clearly, it's the conclusion. It tells us the overall use and utility of the London Tube and gives an example of how much it's used today and a picture of what it might be in the future. Hemant Sharma says it's the financial hub. More lines are needed towards the suburbs, and tourists use this transportation systems. Odina says it's the recent development in the usage of the tube and its continued value for London. Very good. Excellent job, students. Let's answer the questions. So notice, students, that so far, introducing our websites and talking about the reading, giving you all these tips and strategies, we're at 30 minutes, okay? even at the speed I was reading with explanations and talking about what each paragraph is about, we only spent about 15 minutes on this passage. Now, if you're calm and focused, you can spend quite a bit of time reading this passage in that 10 to 12 minutes, which leaves you at least 7-8 minutes to answer the questions. That's about 45 seconds per question. That's a lot of time. For the questions, you shouldn't have to spend 45 seconds on each question. Okay? All right. So now the next step, of course, is answering the questions. And that's what we're going to do now. And we're going to do it together. So this is yes, no, not given. Make sure you don't confuse your answers with true, false, not given. Okay, if you write true instead of yes, you'll get it wrong. So careful. All right. It's yes, no, not given. Pay close attention. Don't make silly mistakes. Yeah, Odina, 7 to 8 minutes for answering is lots of time if you did active reading. Okay? If you did active reading. All right. So you have to be careful here. You have to take your time and go through step by step. So first question, is it important? So is it important to know how many people use the tube each year? Is that important? Is it an important question for the London Underground to know how many people use it each year? Because the first step we want to do with yes, no, not given is figure out if it's given or if it's not given. Very good, students. So many of you are saying, yes, it's important. Yes, important. Also, by going through these steps, it slows down your thinking a little bit, which means that you'll increase your accuracy rate. Did everybody catch that? So first asking, is it important? Figuring out if it's given or not given, and then asking if it's true or not, or yes or not, will help to slow down your logical thinking so that you increase your rate of accuracy. One of the big problems students do or make is they read it really quickly, they think they have the answer, they give the answer, and it's wrong, right? So slow, processed thinking. You are the turtle, you're not the rabbit, okay? Everybody knows the famous story of the Greek philosopher Oedipus, the rabbit and the hare, or the rabbit, and the turtle. So is it important? Yes, it's important, so it's given. Okay, so we know it's given. Okay, so it's going to be either a yes or a no. All right. Now we ask the second question. Is it true? Full sentence here. Okay, full sentence. Is it true that should go the other direction, that over 1 million people use the tube? So is that true? Okay. Musafir says yes, it's true. Hina says yes. Niha says yes. Is it over 1 billion? Just for fun? Is it over 1 billion people that use the tube each year? Heman says 1.3 million. It's 1.3 billion students. 1.3 billion, not 1.3 million, 1.3 billion. Okay, at the beginning of the passage. So if it's 1.3 billion, it's definitely over 1 million. Be really careful, students. The IELTS exam is testing your thinking and logic as well. Okay, so 1.3 billion is definitely more than 1 million. It's a lot more. In this way, IELTS is also testing to see if you know the difference between million and billion. Okay, so billion is 1,000 million, right, in American English. So in British English, I believe it's 100 million. So here we go. The answer then is yes, it's true. So it's yes. Okay, so figure out if it's yes or no, and then figure out the answer. So here we know that it is yes, of course, because 1.3 billion is more than 1 million. So your answer is yes. You just put the big letter Y in your answer sheet for 1, and you got this correct. Okay, so be very, very careful. All right. Okay. 1 billion passengers. Passengers can be the same people getting off and on, right? So you can have a worker who gets off and on every day, back and forth, and each time they're a passenger. So passenger is not necessarily the same as a person or an individual in this case. A passenger is any person that's on the metro at any given time, right? Okay. Yeah, Maja, you can put the one letter Y. Just make sure it's very clear. Yeah, Hadi, commuter, exactly. Okay, next one. The tube is privately owned. Is it important to know? So I'm going to shorten it like this. Imp, important. Imp actually has a different meaning, so careful. Imp, is it important? Yeah, users would be okay as well, Bekjan. Yeah, it's important. So it's given. Okay, so next question, true or false? Is the tube privately owned? True or false? Is it owned privately? Ali says nope. Abhishek says nope. Pooja says nope, it's false. Yeah, it's no. So it's false. So the answer is no. Why? Because of the is. It would be true if this were was. Be very careful with tense. So this is why you have to go through the steps, ask the full sentence questions in your mind, nice and steady, so that you slow your logic and pay attention to detail. Is that clear, students? I haven't highlighted the importance of that in the past, but I'm going to do it now because I think some students are getting these wrong even with the right strategy because they're rushing. Okay, so when you use the if, this, then, that logic strategy for yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given questions. Do not rush. Make sure to ask the full questions each time to slow your logic and catch details like verb tense, plural, singular, and negatives. Okay, that's just an example of a few. Does that make sense? Okay, so yes, no, not given, they're not that bad, but you have to slow your thinking so you can catch these, okay? Yeah, previously it was owned privately, but now it's public. The verb tense of this question is present tense. It's is it. So the correct answer is no. So far your answers are yes for the first one and no for the second one, okay? Yeah, Elena, exactly. Slow but steady, exactly. Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Rangana. All right, the steam engine was invented in London. Is it important? Is it important to know that the steam engine was invented in the city of London for the London Underground? Okay, so many of you are saying no. So if you're saying no, then it's simply not given. Okay. Now, Let's say that you're not sure. So some of you are saying, yeah, it's important. I think it might be given. Some of you are saying, well, I don't think it is, so it's not given. I would just go with not given if I'm not sure. But hey, if you really want that band 9 and you want to be 100% sure, some clever students asked me in the past, teacher, if I ask, is it important, and my answer is maybe, what do I do? So what should you do if your answer to this question is maybe? If your answer is maybe, what should you do? If you're not sure. If you can't say, well, it's maybe important, not important, steam engine, it's kind of the metro. Okay, I'll tell you what to do. Some of you are saying, I read the text again. Not right now, Elena, not right now. Okay, so this is what you want to do. Okay, so if you are unsure whether a statement is important or not, answer not given. Remember it, and if and only if you have time within the 20 minutes for that passage, go back and check your answer in the reading. 2 reasons for this, okay? It is likely not given if you are thinking maybe. Also, other questions may help you figure it out as you go along. Okay? So oftentimes, when you go to the other questions and you answer them, then you realize, oh yeah, of course, yeah, that wasn't given, or it was given in a different way, because I remember now from this question that that paragraph was saying that the steam engine was invented in England, but it didn't tell me what city. Does that make sense? So don't skip the question, Harpal. Don't skip the question. What you want to do is you want to put the steam engine was invented in London. Important, not important? I don't know, maybe. I'm going to give it a not given. I'll put a star if I have a minute at the end of this passage and questions. I'll come back to this, and then I'll search the passage and realize that it was somewhere in the development of London. Great Britain was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th, 19th centuries. Glasgow, Birmingham, London gave birth to the inventions such as the steam engine. Okay, but it doesn't tell me that London gave birth to the steam engine. It says cities like. So we don't know exactly which one, so it's not given. Okay, so you come back, you realize it's not given. But again, you don't do that only if you have time, okay? Only if you have time. Otherwise, not given is your best bet, all right? Beckjun's asking, how do we know if it's important or not? That's a good question, Beckjun. So how do you know if it's important? Think about it this way. Beckjun, if you wrote a 1.5-page essay about the London Underground, would you include information about the invention of the steam engine in that essay? Probably not, because it's a little bit off topic. Okay? Or if you do, then you're likely going to include very little information like this, and not really specific information about who invented it, where they invented it, what they used to invent it. Okay? So Ogabek asking the same, how do I know if it's important or not? Ask yourself, if I write an essay, 700 words, about the London Underground, Will I include specific information about the invention of the steam engine in such a paper? Probably not. Okay, so it's a good question. I'll make a note of it. So how do I know? Let me just erase all this so you can see it a bit better. So how do I know if the information is important or not? Okay, A, reflect on what you read. This is why it is so important to actively read the whole passage. B, use critical thinking. Ask yourself, would I include such information in an essay 600 to 750 words long for my reader on this topic? Okay, does that make sense? So, is that clear? All right. Ask yourself that. So again, it's that critical thinking. And this is why when you practice the type of writing, many of our students who just watched the Task 2 class, and many of our members, of course, that were in the Task 2 class, now you realize the connection between using good logic to answer those Task 2 questions and your reading passages. When you know how to write, how to analyze a question, a Task 2 question, and write a good essay for that Task 2 question, that also helps you to analyze the mind of the author for the IELTS and analyze that information. IELTS authors are experts in literature, and they use the exact same kind of strategy and technique that I'm showing you for Task 2. So the two go hand in hand, as the expression goes, no pun intended. So does that make sense, students? Does that make sense? Okay. If it doesn't, just send me an email and give you some more details. Okay. So understanding how, of course, to write an effective, proper, persuasive, expository Task 2 essay will help you understand the persuasive, expository reading passages. I think that's the clearest way to explain it to many of you. For those of you that don't understand the words persuasive and expository essays, you really need to learn that, and you really need to visit our websites to pick up that information. So just a side tip here, okay? By understanding the structure and logic of persuasive and expository, and for general IELTS students, the narrative essays as well, story, essay, writing, you will also understand the reading passages faster and better. Okay? All right? Okay, so let's keep going here. Next question. Number 4, London grew by a factor of 6 from 18 to 1900. Okay? London grew by a factor of 6. London grew by a factor of 6. Factor of 6 means 6 times. So is it important? For this passage, for the underground, which is a mass transit system, is it important to know how fast the city is growing? Yes. Again, logic, right? So it's given. I would definitely include this information if I'm writing an essay about a transportation system and its history in a city, right? It was the size of the city. That's very important, obviously, right? So is it true? True or false? Did London grow by at least 6 times from the 18 to the 1900s? Is that true or false? Yeah, it's given and it's true or false. Yeah, Pooja says it's true. Yeah, it went from 1 million to 6.5 million. There's even that nice expression of ballooned to 6.5 million, right? So I indicate yes, and I move on, okay? So far, yes, no, not given, yes. Okay, number 5, improved sanitation was the least important factor in London's growth. Tricky. That's looking for that band 8, band 9 reader, active reader, and very, very effective logic. So sanitation means wastewater, so the water from the toilet, from the washing machine. Where does it go? Is it important? Is this important? Improved sanitation was, it doesn't seem important. So if you are having difficulty with time here, I would go not given, and then you'd get it wrong, okay? But if you're that band 8, band 9 student, and you're really paying attention, you're like, something's going on here. You notice that here in question 4, London grew, okay? Now in question 5, London grew. So there's obviously information about London's growth. Okay, so there you should, if you're very critical, a light bulb should go off and go, "Ooh, wait a second, something about the growth here is interesting." Both questions talking about the growth. And I did read something about sanitation. And then you'll go, okay, well, I'm gonna go back. I have a little bit of time. And read that part of the passage. I remember it was about the Industrial Revolution and the growth of London. There's that 6.5 million people. And then here it says there were many factors which contributed to this growth, not least of which was improved sanitation. Now careful, because here we have not least, okay? And here in the question, we have the least. So this is the opposite. That's why I said that negative positive comparison, right? So that's why you have to go slow and steady so that you can catch these differences. Here, the passage is negative and the answer is positive. So with good critical reading and thinking, you'll realize that the answer here is no. So here the correct answers are yes, no, not given, yes, and no. Okay, those are the right answers. Okay, students, so that's a little bit of detailed explanation about the yes, no, not given strategy. To learn a lot about these strategies, I highly recommend aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general. We have psychologists, education experts that know about test composition and testing, psychometrics it's called. So that's what you'll learn on the websites, and it's really worth spending a couple dollars and learning those before you sit your test. I highly recommend it. Students, for the remaining questions, you can definitely try those on your own. Here, again, is a look at the summary completion question. Watch the video again, pause it here, and then answer these questions. Here are the questions for the sentence completion with the choices. Here are the choices. And again, for all of you who haven't joined us yet, check us out at aehelp.com for academic, glshelp.com for general. Yes, I can send you a coupon if you are looking for a discount. Send me an email. Have an awesome rest of your day. Members, tomorrow we'll finish that task 2 we started earlier today, and we'll have a task 1 chart for everybody at this time tomorrow. Okay. Much love to all of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, eat your vitamins, get fresh air and exercise. Bye for now. Much love from Budapest. See you soon.